right,
Cool.
welcome back to the Founders Porch podcast. Today we have a special guest, two-time sailing, correct me if I'm wrong, two-time sailing head, 10 years at camp, 3 years on staff.
I don't know how we're gonna count that. Um,
Could have been
three
four.
years on set. So I had five. I got my 5-year pin LIT year, so it's kind of 5 years on staff, but also like CIT year. I don't know. I was sort of the first group of your camper. I didn't even know
Yeah,
that we had paid for it. My parents were just like, "Okay, you're going back to camp," and I was like, "Cool." Um, and then 2020.
That
we
I
counts.
count.
counted
We
towards my
count.
10-year jacket.
We count
So
that. Yeah, that year because we got our 10-year jackets the same year. I didn't know we were technically the same camp year. Um, but then I also didn't know that you were my brother's year, and I didn't. You were LITs with my brother, right?
yes, I was LITs with your brother.
I didn't know that. And like I was at camp and then like I forget how it was brought up. I was like, huh. Because like there Seth was telling me a story and like your name is brought up and I go, wait, what? Must have been a fun cabin.
Yeah, it was a very interesting LIT cabin, to be sure.
Yeah. But before we jump into anything, let's just have you introduce yourself. So what we like to do here, is name, years at camp, I forget most of the
Activity you're running
yeah.
or you ran.
And then
Favorite food spot in like the general lake area. Um, yeah.
All right, so I'm Alex. I'm also called Pick. It said Pick on my name tag at one point. Um, I I counted as 10 years at camp because that's a nice round number. One of those years is 2020, and I did not go to New Hampshire that year. Um, I ran sailing for 2019 and 2021. Um, yeah, sailing. Um, and I did a good job for half that time. Uh, I
Both.
think
Both.
getting the boats together was a struggle for the first half of both of those summers. Well, 2021 was its own challenge for the first half
yeah.
of the summer. But yeah, my favorite food spot. I'm gonna give you two things. Um, the best place to go on an off day is Bailey's, and I can't believe nobody has said Bailey's on this podcast yet. I don't know. You gotta have Bailey's. I know it's from Massachusetts. The ice cream is not
Yeah.
it's not
No, it's a
anything special,
classic.
but like
It's a
the
classic.
vibes of Bailey's are special, and you got to go to Bailey's regularly. And then the other one, when you actually want food, I had a tradition of when my parents were dropping me off at camp, we would always stop on the first restaurant on the way into Wolfboro, which is I think called the Front Porch. It's got like a big
Mhm.
lobster on the sign.
Yeah.
Really good mac and cheese.
Mm.
I recommend, but also like there are just as good food spots in Wolfboro, but it's like a nice like okay, we're about to go to camp. We're getting front porch, and my dad calls it the Old Bailey's. I don't know if he's right. I don't know if there used to be a place called Bailey's there, but there you go.
Yeah, they do serve ice cream, so maybe it's in reference to that.
They do serve ice cream out of the side window, like Bailey's does. So maybe I don't know.
Shout out
Yeah.
Bailey's for just getting renovated recently.
Yeah.
Mm,
Shout out
nice.
to Hunters for
Also getting
Banning Buffalo.
renovated, let's say,
yeah,
after burning down.
yeah. Jordan, you want to do the quick introduction first?
I'll introduce myself again. It's been a
Yeah.
while. I'm Jordan. This is my 12th year at camp, which fun fact, staff week starts this Saturday. Um uh Year 12 will officially begin. Uh I'm just gonna be doing whatever activity they throw me at. In the past I taught water ski, helped out at archery a bit. I teach swim sometimes, not my specialty, but I do it. Um, and my favorite food spot right now for this episode, I'm gonna say Dockside. Never had it before 2021. Uh, but I've been there a couple times, and it's decent food, decent prices. And when you like want like you can get like a good meal, not a good meal, but like a meal there or like a little snack, whatever you're in the mood for.
It's definitely
Fair.
the most affordable like actual food place in Wolfboro.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm Pat or Patrick or whatever. This will be my ninth year at camp. Uh, I am teaching the best activity on camp. I don't even need to mention what it is because you all know.
Arts and
If you don't
crafts.
know, look at Alex's reaction.
Great activity. Arts and crafts.
Yeah,
Extreme.
extreme. Yes. And yeah, I'm teaching that with Leo, sailing. Um,
Amazing.
and best food spot. Oh, I got to come up with a new one.
Yeah. I looked up the map.
What's like the random sushi place like 15 minutes northeast of Wolfboro? Have you ever been there, Jordan?
I only know about Seabird and
Yeah.
what's
Well,
the
it's in
other
like
one?
the middle. It's in like the middle of the woods. I went there with like Madigan and like Frazzy, I think,
Oh, is
2021.
it east of Suez or is that a
No,
different
that's
place?
that's like south of Wolfboro. I'm talking like you
Yeah,
get
yeah,
on
yeah.
this random road and you just head northeast for like 15 minutes. And it's like this sushi restaurant, just like in the
Oh
middle of
wait, yeah,
nowhere.
yeah, yeah, I know the one you're talking about. I don't remember what it's called. It's been 2 years.
Yeah, yeah. We'll figure it out this summer. But
Yeah, what's
yeah, just a
okay.
random spot.
But there was like a line out the door when I first like drove past it because it had like
Really.
just opened.
Yeah.
It was weird.
Hmm.
We'll go on a field trip.
Yes, we will.
See if it's still that popular.
Yeah. So we'll jump into our first segment. Uh, I like to imagine, like on Family Feud, like that speed run they do, where you just kind of like, I ask you a question, you just answer it fast.
Oh, okay, sure. Speed
All
round.
right, so it's gonna be like this or that, and basically just say what like whichever comes to mind. Or some of them are this or that questions. Some of them are like quick questions. Just say the first thing that comes to your mind. Ready?
Sounds good.
All right, water or land?
Water.
Favorite cabin?
Blackfoot.
Physical cabin. Okay.
Or
Favorite meal at
whatever it's
camp?
gonna be called this summer.
Yeah. Favorite meal? The actual food.
Oh, stuffed shells.
Good one. Uh, Favorite activity.
Sailing.
Favorite camp song.
There's so many good ones. I mean, Rise and Shine is the obvious answer. It's not camp until we've gone 15 verses into Rise and Shine.
Okay, I was gonna ask what's the ideal number for that too. Favorite
It's
out of
just a
cabin
minimum.
dive spot. Yeah, minimum 15. Favorite out of cabin dive spot.
Basketball courts on a clear night. Y'all lie
Uh,
down.
yeah,
The best. It's
and
the best
then
place to just lie down.
last one, top or bottom bunk.
Uh, Depends, but at this point, bottom bunk.
Yeah, this one's always open for debate. I'm just a big bottom bunk guy because you can just roll out of bed.
Yeah, bottom bunk. Bottom bunk. It's easier to be lazy,
Yeah.
and I'm at that point in my life right now. But like when I was a junior trailer, even a senior, I was like top bunk. But
You get like a bird's eye view of the cabin, pretty much.
oh yeah, you can also like hide stuff in your rafters, and I know some people inspect that, but
Mhm.
you know it just feels very personal. Like when you're a
Mm,
bottom bunk, like you end up playing Magic on your bunk with people. Nobody comes to the top bunk to play Magic.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm a top bunk at home.
Yeah.
But I prefer bottom bunk. It's just easier.
Yeah. Um, well, so this next part is a guest question or fan question. I got this about 2 months ago. when we were originally supposed to do this. Maybe it's the second time we were supposed to do this. This kept getting canceled and rescheduled. This is from Noah. Um,
Oh,
this is an assumption from Noah. He wants to know why you got rid of the sailing manual.
oh, okay. So I I really wanted there to be like I okay. This was complicated, and short answer, I don't know if I ever got one.
Valid.
So there was like a Google Drive that I was shared on, and it had the PVC sailing manual on it. And so I started to write on that and like say this is the Northwoods one, and here's how I'm doing it, and like I'm gonna blend it with things. Um, and I didn't really like the PVC sailing manual. It had a lot of safety things that were not actually helping. Um, and it had a lot of things that were like overkill or things that were just like, okay, yeah, I guess we need to do this, and I should have been doing this. So like there were a lot of it was inconsistent. So I was like trying to be like, okay, I've actually done this and I have experience with here are the gaps that I didn't know. And I was trying to rewrite that and pass it off to Pat. And I don't think I did a very good job of that.
Uh,
I
Justine,
procrastinated.
I think Justine completely like rewrote it.
Who's Justine?
She's one of like the sailing board members, like along
Oh,
with Ross.
I would much rather have had Ross redo that because I've
Well,
actually
it was
talked to
great.
Ross.
Yeah, it was great, except there were some things that were kind of frivolous. Like the kids don't need to know how to dock a sailboat.
Nope, they
Yeah.
don't.
They
I
like
mean, like if you're gonna have a launch, which we should have a launch, every good sailing program ever, every even decent sailing program ever has a launch where you
mhm,
can go between all of the kids without having to chase them down in a kayak, which is sometimes impossible. Um,
mhm.
you can't. It's a good idea to be able to say, okay, come to Leeward and luff up so that we can grab like the gunnels and have a chat, and it's safe and we're not crashing any boats or anything. Um, but other than that, there's not really a good reason, and that's actually a very easy maneuver to do.
Except there's so
With
many sailing
Wainwright.
buzzwords that like the kids don't want to learn. Like
That's true.
it takes like the first 3 days of program days to teach them what irons means.
I think you
Yeah.
should start like doing quizzes and tests in sailing and like giving
So
the kids grades.
there's a lot of merit to the like I'm really bad about this because I have been immersed in sailing forever and ever. So like I say something and I say it in sailing language, and they look at me like I've got two heads, and I'm like, oh yeah, pull that rope. So I like by the end of my time as a sailing head, I was like, okay, I'm drilling all of these words on the first day and just hoping. Um,
Yeah.
but like, yeah, that wasn't great. Um, yeah, the thing that I think is the most important thing that like Northwoods doesn't do that, or at least they didn't do while I was sailing head because I just totally forgot about it, was teach upwind.
Like upwind sailing.
Kids think that they can just go upwind sometimes, even though you teach them the points of sail. And then it's like, okay, well, you're way over towards what is it, Fox Point,
Yeah.
and we need to go back, but the wind is coming from PVC, and now I have to tow you in a kayak. So if I had actually properly taught them how to zigzag upwind
Yeah.
every time, first day, second day, that would have been way better. Should have done that. And I think I
Hmm.
told you that in 2021, Pat. I was like, I should have been doing this.
Yeah. No, it's like weird because you want to get like the happy medium between teaching them everything they like need to sail well, but you also want them to like have fun and not stress about like learning stuff like it's school,
Yeah.
which is such a hard balance to find. Um, like because during the no win days, right, you want to take that as an opportunity to be like, all right, this is like these are the parts of the boat. This is like how you sail upwind or something. Um, like a more classroom lesson. But then like I got eval'd on one of the no win days, and like one of the EC members was you need to like think of more games to do during no win days. Like you need to teach it as a game. You can't just be like
I need to know who said this. If it wasn't a
Brad.
Puzo, then it's invalid.
It was Brad.
It's Brad. Yeah. Okay. I
But
get
like
I get it.
outside of that moment, much love to him.
Yeah. Oh yeah, love Brad.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you have no wind, it's a great idea to teach sailing. But like you have to start thinking like a school teacher at that point. Like, okay, we need to
Yeah.
teach them through the games, which
Mhm.
like that's hard. I don't have anything to tell you there. I didn't do it. I had 2 years to figure that out, and I didn't. Uh, um, yeah, you could. I don't know. I don't know if this would be like particularly easy to implement, but I can't believe I didn't at least try to do this at camp. So at my sailing camp when I was like 12, we did this thing called a bowline test,
Mhm.
where you would have the kids tie themselves to the dock with a bowline and then lean out over the water for like an extended period of time. And if it was a good bowline, they wouldn't fall in. But like half the time it wasn't, and they would just get soaked.
I'm more
This was
like
this was
that's
in San Francisco Bay, so it was like actually a bad thing if it
yeah.
happened. But like
Yeah.
it would be fine at camp as long
Yeah.
as you like
I'm
got
just worried that like if they're tied to the dock by a bowline and then their feet are like this against the dock
yeah, it was
and then
there's a
their feet
different
slip,
geometry
they
of the
would like
dock.
swing
You have to
back and
figure out
like
like a lot. You
yeah.
have to figure out a lot of stuff.
I'm just worried they're gonna like give themselves a concussion from like slamming
Yeah.
into the dock if their feet
That's
slip.
the
But
punishment. Do it right or you get a concussion.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
There's a way to do it safely, but it would take figuring out for sure.
Mhm.
Um, yeah,
Yeah.
Waterfront activities in general are kind of like harder to plan because of the weather. Because like if it's too like wavy, most activities can't do anything. But like sailing is one of those activities where it's like I guess canoe kayak if it's too like wavy, like you can kind of still do something. Like water ski, you can tube, swim, you can just mess around. But like sailing, like if there's no wind, you just can't go sailing, which is like
yeah.
one of
You
the
can
tough
do
things.
you can do
Pirates.
capsize tests, drills, whatever you want to call it. You can like say
Pirates.
that's like it works better
Yeah.
to do capsize tests if you have one boat that you're really confident in and then a launch. So you take everybody out in the launch and then you swap them out in and out of the boat and just have them all do capsizes
Yeah.
and like jeer on their peers, which is a lot of fun. But like you have to make sure your mast ties are good. You have to make
Yeah.
sure you're not anywhere shallow where you're going to get stuck in the mud if you go turtle. There's also some logistics to that.
Mhm.
And again, I never did it. Um, there was a way to do it with kayaks, but like I didn't really love that because the boats kept breaking.
Yeah. We Ross has been our fairy godmother. He's like been replacing everything. Yeah.
Yep.
He's yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to Ross Ween.
Shout out
Helps
Ross.
helps sailing a lot.
Yeah.
Um, I I actually have talked to the board a couple times about sailing because my dad's on the board,
Yeah.
and I'm like, hey, I'm in the room. um, and I have advocated heavily for not doing aquafins or sunfish anymore, and moving over to what Belknap has, which aren't that much more expensive,
The
which are
Pico
laser
lasers.
picos. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, they're first off, they're safe in higher winds. Second off, you can put 2 people in them and they have something to do. They have to be small, but you can do it. Otherwise, like it's really just better to have one passenger and somebody driving the boat in an aquafin.
Yeah.
And then like they're faster to rig, they're less dangerous to rig. You're not gonna have giant aluminum poles falling on kids' heads. If they drop it, there's not like the if you aren't strong enough, you can't get the boom high enough.
Yeah.
Like there's all sorts of problems that aquafins have, especially with having younger kids in them. Because like I remember I was 10, I fully knew how to sail an Opti, which is a smaller boat. It's terrible. Don't
It's
buy
a
Opti.
bathtub with a sail for those that don't know sail.
Literally rectangular.
That's
Like
like
And
think
it's
of a
got like these
bathtub and then
giant
put a sail on it.
like it's horrible. I hate them. But like I totally knew how to sail an Opti. And I came to camp with Sam McKnight. No, different. No, not Sam McKnight. I'm blanking on his name.
Is it Max Morgenstern?
No, I did have Max Morgenstern as my sailing head, but it was before that. He's like Evan Gallagher's best friend.
Dan
Northwestman guy. What?
Dan Daniluk?
No. Why am I blanking on
Here, Jordan, can you let me share my screen?
Yeah.
Can you enable screen sharing?
Definitely Sam.
Sam Games?
No, not Sam Games. He was British, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sam Sullivan?
Nope.
Go.
No, maybe it wasn't Sam. I don't know.
All right.
But like he tried
Just
to teach me how to rig an aquafin, and I literally just wasn't strong enough as a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
And like
For those,
I totally knew
yeah.
what I was doing, but I was just like, I cannot get this high enough.
So for those that are wondering what kind of boat Alex was talking
geez.
about, this is an Opti. It is literally a bathtub with a sail. And then pick. So
That just
there
looks
have been,
like a hot tub.
yeah,
Yeah,
there
and it's
have
also
been
got a
rumors.
sprit pole, and the way that it tensions is super weird.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, I'm the only one that's
it's
gonna
got a lot of
understand that.
advantages over an aquafin. It would not work because you have to take them in and out of the water every time.
Yep.
You really can't moor them. But the trick with Optis is that at least they've got, dude, I've seen this, the foiling Opti, man.
Yeah.
We're getting very sidetracked from camp.
Yes.
But
No, we're the only 2 people that understand this.
and probably
Oh,
Jack.
bro, I'm a sailing expert.
Yeah.
I took 2 sessions
But
of it.
there have been rumblings about a new class of sailboat. It's pretty much an aquafin with like the body of a 420 almost.
But
That's like the
why?
simplest. Huh?
But why?
It can fit more people, I guess.
I
Because one of the
guess.
biggest
It looks
complaints
longer.
about aquafins is like even 2 people on an aquafin feels like too much at times.
True.
Whereas like this, like
Yeah.
it looks like, but
the problem with the aquafin is that it's like essentially a drag racer.
oh,
Like
that's
it's
not
really
what I was looking for.
it's really good at going fast, accelerating for a long time in a straight line. It's got a very narrow hull, a tiny little rudder, a tiny little dagger board, and a giant sail. So it's good in like your 5 to 10 knots and like just really getting up to speed in like lake sailing conditions. It's bad for camp because it's got a tiny rudder, which means that the kids who don't know how to get up to speed, or if there's not enough wind or there's too much, can't turn very well. It's got a small dagger board, which means that if there's too much wind, you can't drive it. You don't go straight.
What's his face? Peter Papadopoulos, or maybe it's Theo would love it. There was
Oh,
do you remember the
Tropic.
Papadopoulos one kids?
Oh yeah, Dude,
Yeah.
I taught them how to sail. I taught them all how to sail.
Yeah,
One of
last
the,
year they were all in sailing and they were doing great. But I think it was
Awesome.
Peter. Like Peter and Jack had like a special bond, Jack McGarrigan. And Peter would always be like, "How do I sail sideways?
dude,
I want to sail
day,
sideways."
every day at breakfast, he's also asking every other staff member, and I'm like, dude, I don't know, I've barely sailed. And he goes, but how do you sail sideways? So then Jack started saying, just tell him to take the dagger board out, and then like
That's
he'll
what
shut
you
up.
do.
Yeah.
That will work.
Um,
It'll totally work.
yeah. I'm loving this discussion about sailing, but I'm afraid our viewership might not be as familiar as us.
I have
Uh,
one more question about the sailing.
Okay.
okay.
I did one session with you, Pick. And this was my favorite part, Anarchy Day. How did that come to be?
So Anarchy Day is like a Noah and Colby thing. Uh, it's pretty common in my sailing camps. We had the last day of the session, everybody would bring a water gun. I can't really do that at camp, but because like having your own water gun is like you have to be responsible with it. If I provided water guns to everybody, I would have to get like super cheap ones because I'm not spending money on good water guns that you're just gonna leave in the lake. um, and like yeah, they would have to be like basically disposable. So part of that, the whole point of that day is to just get your piers as wet as possible. And the same, you can do the same thing without the water guns. You can use bailers. I love using bailers. The best bailers, by the way, are not the purpose made bailers. They
They're
are
the
a
laundry
jug of
Like the half
detergent.
Arizona iced tea. It
Yeah.
has to be Arizona iced tea with the bottom cut off.
Yeah. Or laundry detergent.
Yep.
No, no. Arizona iced tea has a better geometry for getting into the nooks and crannies of a lot of boats.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I will be drinking a lot of Arizona this summer then, which I am not
Yeah,
complaining
like
about.
Pat, you're doing FJs and 420s in college soon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's either
Northwestern sailing, baby.
I think it's FJs that like it's perfectly between the rails.
Yep.
But yeah, Arizona iced tea is the best bailer. So yeah, you can huck water at your friends and or capsize their boats. I didn't do Anarchy Day as often as I would have liked to because I knew the boats were like particularly fragile and I only had a couple of them for a lot of that time. Um, so if I were more confident in the durability and like just general wear and tear on those boats, I would have done Anarchy Day every session. But I didn't. I would rather have all of the boats ready when there was actually a nice day. And maybe that was wrong. I don't know because like the kids like that better than sailing. So
One of
Yeah.
my favorite memories my LIT year is like it was an LIT only period of sailing basically. It just worked out that way.
oh yeah,
I think there was one
that was a
senior
fun period
and
with Hudson and Wyatt.
yeah, and we packed correct me like the big like it was I think it's
The
the
Merc.
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 You had the
Yeah,
Merc.
there were six of us in there and we treated it like Navy SEALs. So we like all three on each side and then we just sped up to a boat and this wasn't the best idea but we still did it. Five of us then jumped out like Navy SEALs just backed up and we left Xavier by himself in the Merc
I
just sailing
remember this. Yeah.
and then we just go around just like tipping people and then you're like, dude, like you can't just leave one person alone like to sail that boat. And but Xavier's like doing it. But it was a struggle to get back in that boat because he just kept whipping around.
What I really liked about like I actually genuinely love the Mercs. They're super slow, but they're extraordinarily forgiving boats to sail. They've got a nice big rudder. They've got that massive iron keel that's like
You
400
cannot
pounds.
capsize them. Knock on wood, you cannot capsize them. The reason why
Don't
I'm
want
knocking on
to.
wood
Like
is
you
because
could
this
if
will be
I'll
the
do it.
summer.
if
I'll
you
do it.
really tried, you could and it would sink. But
Yeah.
what's really nice about them is that they are really good at staying flat. So you can do a lot of like really goofy things with them. You can say, okay, guys, do rudderless sailing, and you tell them, okay, you lean your boat the opposite way of where you want it to go, and you trim your sails to how you want
It's
your.
like a skateboard.
Yeah, you can
Actually,
do.
no, the opposite
It's
of a
the opposite of a
skateboard.
skateboard, which is weird. It's counterintuitive, but it totally works. Um, and you trim the jib and the main differentially based on that.
Yeah.
Um, and that based on where you want to go. So you trim the jib to head downwind, and you ease the main, and then the opposite for heading upwind. And the Mercs are really easy to do that on because they've got that balance. So you can really easily keep the boat flat, which is the hardest part, because it's hard to go straight when you're.
Yeah.
When
Or if
you're
you have campers that like are kind of scared of the boats capsizing, you can put them in a Merc and then start rocking it back and forth to show them that like it's okay and they're not gonna die.
Yeah, that's
Like
true.
some exposure therapy.
Yeah.
Um,
With in high school sailing, they had us do tipping point drills. Did you have to do that at all?
no, but I know what those are. Like where you
Okay,
just
I
get
will
as far
explain
as
to
you
the
can.
audience.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's act
The
like some
point of a
people don't
tipping
know.
point drill is probably primarily so that the instructors can laugh at you. But you, in order, there's some maneuvers where you want to get the boat to as close to capsizing as possible without capsizing. And it's way further than you think. It's like this is where everybody's comfortable. Everybody likes the mast and sails here, right?
Yep.
Here, a lot of people start to get uncomfortable. They don't need to.
That's real sailing.
This is fun.
I can
love
attest
this.
to
You're
that.
hiking out. You're on the rail. It's great. Here, the boat is still stable. Wind dependent, how waterlogged you are dependent, and bang. Some things are dependent on that, but the boat is generally still stable here. Around here is where you end up. Oh, the sail flopped into the water.
The second the centerboard comes out of the water is when it's over.
Not necessarily, but
Unless
it's
you can
much,
dry cap. Unless you can dry cap.
The
second the centerboard's out of the water.
So what they'll do in these instructions is they'll have you like just hold it here for as long as you can and feel where that point is so that you know how far over you can tip your boat when you're doing these maneuvers. And yeah, if you don't get wet during one of these drills during your life, you haven't actually figured out where the tipping point is.
Yep.
There was one time on a really windy day, I think I was like 11 or 12, and I believe it was Derek I went out sailing with. He was like a CIT, and like we were whipping, and like I got so because like the boat was going like this, and like I'm like, dude, it's about a caps. Like we were like just whipping so fast, and it was tipping. I go, oh my God. So like when you said like you think you're about to go, I'm like, holy, I've had that, but like it's really fun. It's more fun that way.
Oh yeah. And what I really appreciated, and I don't think anybody else did, was like my first summer, none of the Aquafins had their hiking straps. And what hiking is like the most athletic thing you can do in sailing.
Which is not a lot.
I mean, and you can do a lot of athletic things in sailing, but like you actually need to, hiking is why you need to be a good athlete. If you're doing like competitive sailing. So when the boat is tipping over, the best way to counteract that is to lean outside of the boat as far as you can. So there's a strap in the middle of the boat, or sometimes there's two if the boat's wide enough, where you tuck your feet under, and the best way to do it is to just like have the tips of your toes under there, and you get your legs as straight as possible, and wherever that lands on the rail, that's where it is. And then you lean out with your body flat, so you act as a giant lever keeping the boat down. And most of the time that people are like whipping their boat, like you say, they're not actually hiking out enough, and like that's fine. But if you do that too much, there is a problem. It's not that you're going to capsize; it's that you're going sideways. Um,
Yep. Weather helm.
because your dagger board is out of the way. Anyway, I feel like we've talked plenty about boat physics.
Yes. All right. Now some counselor specific questions, like the general counselors. Um, in your opinion, what was like the most rewarding single moment of being a counselor? Like when did you kind of just come away from a situation being like, damn, I just made a difference?
Oh, oh, oh man. Okay. There's a lot of those. I mean, like I had a great time my final night at camp. I think ever so far. I don't think I've been back to camp since then. Yeah. Where like after final night 2021, half of camp is gone.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I have put in a food order for marshmallows and graham crackers and chocolate, and we were I head directly from final night with my cabin with a tiki torch to the waterfront fire pit, and we have s'mores. And that was I needed to do that for myself to say goodbye to camp, but like that was a great night with those kids, especially because like three of us had just been in the infirmary for 2 days because we were waiting for COVID test results, and then we didn't have COVID, which was awesome. Yeah, that was pretty cool. But like when I actually made a difference, um, I don't know. I always hope that I've made a difference. Um, the I'm gonna bring it back to sailing because I spent a lot of my time as a counselor sailing. I had in 2019 an amazing sailing group. It was Rowan, and that was it.
Like in one class, just Rowan
Great,
Vine.
It was
great
just
sailor.
him. We went out on an aquafin every day,
I don't know if
and
I told you, but we gave him his Commodore last year as like
you
a
did tell
senior.
me this.
Great sailor.
I'm sure he earned it, but like he didn't know how to sail when I had
Yeah.
him, and we went out. I more or less taught him how to sail. I forgot to teach him how to go upwind again. Uh, so like later, he stayed for another session, and I didn't have him just alone. He was with other kids, but like I'm very impressed with how well he learned how to sail, and I was very proud of that. Um, like so he's a senior now, right?
About to
I
be an
think he's gonna be
LIT.
an LIT this
Oh
year.
my gosh.
He also just won
I
Kevin
am
Young.
what?
He won Kevin Young last year too as a senior.
Yeah, well, favorite camper
Where
contest.
there's nowhere to go for him now. He's got Commodore, he needs like his
I
R10
don't
in
know.
riflery or
I don't know.
something.
There's
Dude,
a
watch
lot of
him.
people that
Yeah,
could be the next Aiden Wyatt.
he's
Huh?
just gonna get like
Yeah.
every single award in each activity. And he's like, I, what's next?
Yeah. Um, yeah. The yeah, so that was a good moment. Like any time like I can see that I've taught a kid how to sail, and I can say I taught that kid how to sail. That feels really good. Like I got Kate LeMay told me that I hit that like Cooper said, "Oh, Alex taught me how to sail," and I was like, "Yeah."
That is peak right there. When Caitlin May is like, "Oh, my son said this," you're like, "Yes, I did it right. I did it right."
Exactly.
Um, you you were only in the junior section, right?
I was only ever in Blackfoot as a
Damn.
counselor.
Does it feel like? I guess you wouldn't know, but like, does it feel more rewarding being in a junior cabin and like getting through that?
Um, that's an interesting question. I think if you're asking because like you're thinking if anyone out there is thinking like, oh, maybe I should try junior section because like not everybody does junior section and they always need more staff or something. Do it because they always need more staff if you're gonna do it. I did it because that is my favorite section. Um, it's the section that I started in, as a lot of people do, but like that was that was my place on camp, and I liked it. It was more rewarding for me because I like those kids, they're crazy. Uh, like I would not vibe with seniors. I was still like basically a junior when I was in the senior section. I did not understand what was going on at all. I didn't even understand what was going on when I was CIT. Like I was not in the gossip. I was like, what the heck? Nate Wrench is 19. I thought he was like 25 and I was like
Right?
14. Like
Right? That's like you kind of realize, wait, he was an AC when I was like, what the hell?
yeah, like I was clueless. So like that was my experience on camp. So I was in the junior section and I got to give that experience to those kids. Um, but like, you don't have to, they're not they're not clueless. They're not actually clueless. You have to treat them with the same respect you would treat any other human. Um, but like that's where I was and where I belonged.
It's funny because there's like those set counselors who like like yeah, those are junior section counselors, but like now sometimes like get like Campbell will just give them a session in the senior section. Like last year, Real Rob was in the senior section for 4 session, and you're like, this is weird. And then like my brother told me like Liam Redding was in the senior section, and I'm like,
Heard that, yeah.
that's
I
just
was
weird.
there.
Yeah, I'm
I was
like,
there when he was like, "I'm leaving."
yeah, a lot of like I just like remember like or at least like from my brother, I've heard that, like a lot of those junior section counselors go to the senior section and they're just like, please bring me back to the junior section. I miss the juniors.
Well, Liam was a junior section counselor for like his entire tenure until like he had a particularly tough cabin to deal with. Like there was a lot of theft going on, and kids got sent home for like genuinely good reasons, unfortunately. And that he was like, okay, I want to deal with people who are a little bit more chill and a little bit more mature. And he went, I believe, session 4 of 2019. He was in like senior 7 or something. Um, and the same thing happened with like another guy in 2018. Um, or maybe it was the other way around. One of the international counselors was like, I have had it with these kids. It was always a Cherokee counselor who was
Cherokee
like,
can't
okay,
hang.
I'm done with the junior section for this summer. Take me to the senior section.
No, when he what
2018, like session 4, do you say?
uh, I
Or
want I
Liam
want
was
to say
2019, session 4. Okay, 2018, session 4. I was in senior 6. Who was like a counselor that got moved up there? Mo?
it was either Liam Redding or it was, oh, what's his name? He was German, I think.
oh
Maybe
Yannick.
Swiss, probably. I'm really bad at names,
No,
so
there's like this.
Jordan. There was Jordan Sibley, I think. Is that his
No, he
name?
he was in the senior section the whole time. There, I
Okay.
was talking with some people on Discord. Like, there's like two counselors from 2018, like German and someone else, and I'm like, I know them. I just can't know their. I just don't know their name from the like my life.
There's Charlie from Hungary.
Yes, sir.
no,
He
no, not
was
Charlie.
he was great.
Charlie is the most like memorable person I've ever met.
Yeah. What a guy.
But I feel like when someone says like or someone loves a junior section, the people who love the junior section love it more than someone who loves the trail section or someone who loves the senior section. Because like the people who like are I guess like lifers there, they just talk about it so much more highly than like people from other sections. Like Brad, Apuzo always just talks about his juniors. Um,
Okay, try to think about what a Puzo would do in the senior section. Like what?
but I remember like there was one year he was just in there and it was just weird for everyone because like he obviously can handle seniors, but like he was just there. And we're just like, this is weird. I think that was the Harry Abrams senior section.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. Even when I was an LIT, like I had lifeguard training with like Matt Harmon and Max Glenn, and like those guys are junior section guys. And I was like, I want one of these guys to be my CIT mentor. And then they didn't come back.
Oh,
Ah, great guy, Matt Harmon. Shout out Matt Harmon. He is one of the only other people to be in the water with me the whole time during Memorial Day weekend. The other person was Caleb, and that's kind of his job. So me and Matt had that mutual respect. But it was also funny because like I saw him last year, and I had him when I was like 8, and
Yeah,
like that was his first cabin. So we see each other, and we're both like, I'm like, you were my counselor when I was 8. He goes, you were in my cabin when you were 8, and now you're 18. This is weird. I'm like it's kind of weird. Like, I guess like if you saw one of your junior campers in like 6 years, it'd be like, what the hell?
super weird. Harry Abrams came back in like 2019, I want to say. And I was like, hey, Harry, you remember me? And I don't think he did. But but he was my counselor in Blackfoot along with the infamous or famous, I don't know, Will Drozer.
I had him. He was my first counselor.
Yeah. So it was, yeah. That was an interesting, and Aaron Green, who was my counselor my second year along with Evan Gallagher. Um, Shout out Trail 3. Um, Drove me
Trail
to Winter
3.
Summit this past year, um, which was very kind of him. Thanks,
Shout
Aaron.
out, shout out Green. You kind of pointed to this earlier, but I'm gonna spin this in a different way. Maybe you can attest to it. I'm gonna say this carefully. In the past, in my opinion, Cherokee has when the kind of like when I was a camper, that's where like the weirdos were. Uh, I can name names: Matthew Goodwin, Jerry Francicelli. Like my first junior section, like they were just like so weird, not like weird, but like different. And I just feel like Apache and Blackfoot are like similar, but then like the Cherokee kids are just a different breed.
Um, I That's an interesting thing to say. Um, a lot of the time, it was sort of the average age was across cabins. So like the 8-year-olds were all in Apache and the 10-year-olds were all in Cherokee. I never had a cabin of all 9-year-olds. I always had mostly 10-year-olds, and I definitely had a 7-year-old at some point. Um, he was
Maybe a
great.
6-year-old.
Well, I had multiple 7-year-olds, and they were both a lot of fun, but they're handfuls. Say that. Um, so the trend you might be seeing is just that they were there more. When I was in the junior section in Blackfoot, the LITs were in Cherokee.
They were.
Yeah,
That's weird.
that was the LIT cabin.
Oh, to me, Woodside's always the LIT cabin. It just makes sense. It's
Yeah,
bigger. It makes sense.
yeah. There weren't that many LITs that year, so I think it makes sense. But yeah, I remember like looking out the window of Blackfoot and being like, what is going on over there? So
When
like they were definitely weird to me because I
yeah,
I didn't like teenagers.
when you were you like what sessions did you go as a camper usually?
Okay, I think I have this memorized. I was session 3, my first year, session 4, my second year, session 2, I skipped a year, session 2, my third year, session 4 again. Then I was 1-2 as an LIT and 3-4 as a CIT.
Yeah, that is pretty weird.
It's just not consistent. Like I don't know. My family did a lot of summer trips, and that's just how schedules worked out.
Valid. Uh, so you were the last, I guess. I don't want to say normal LIT year. Uh, LIT year that still had lifeguard training.
Yeah,
Um,
I did lifeguard training twice. It was my favorite thing.
yeah, there was. I don't know. Do you remember Martin from your LIT year? He's one of Sam's friends from Dover.
Oh yes, Martin. Oh yeah, we bullied him a little bit, and I'm sorry, Martin.
No, he sat at my table and like every day he'd be like, I had LGT this morning. I need more food. And I'm just like, man, my brother's doing LGT too. I don't think you guys are doing that much. Like, you don't need this food. I need this food.
Martin and I were the worst swimmers in that LGT. Like they had us do buoy swims like every other day. And I was okay. I could do it, but I was definitely the slowest. I was not at Sean's warm up pace. Um, but like it was always me and Martin that were like, okay, everybody's waiting on us. um, yeah. So I mean, we were also both like really skinny back then. So like just, like no nothing to keep us up, just sink.
Yeah.
Bones sink.
And then the next year you were the first new CITs. Was that like a weird, I guess I know like you weren't a CIT before that, obviously, but like you kind of knew that like CITs, what you're doing now was not at all what they were doing in the past. Was it kind of like weird or hard for you?
Yeah, I'm not generally that cynical of a person, so I didn't really say, "Oh, this is terrible," at the time, like a lot of other people did. Um, but it was terrible. It was really unfair to us because they had us. I think that year was the first year they started switching to like more activities than just the four, but they had us doing LGT again for, if I'm remembering correctly, 2 periods again,
Yeah.
and then they had us. We were basically permanent lifeguards outside of that. So like you're training us to be lifeguards and you're making us be lifeguards, and we actually get to do something for 1 or 2 periods. Um, if we're lucky. Usually it was just lifeguard all day, which I got very tired of by the end. And I'm pretty sure it was illegal too.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Because like we weren't like on the same types of insurance and all that because we were being insured. Like we should, while we were lifeguarding, actually what should have been happening is we probably should have been lifeguarded. They probably got approval from somewhere. I don't actually know. But yeah, that was a little bit ridiculous. If we're certified to lifeguard, we should just be certified to lifeguard, um, in my opinion. But like, sure. But I mean, it also means that I have been through lifeguard training like 3 times now, so I have a decent knowledge of it, uh, at least.
Third time's a
I don't know.
charm.
I have enough knowledge of it to know that I don't want to do it again.
Doing it
Oh,
in a week,
that was
Pat.
why. The reason I did lifeguard training 3 times is because Sophia Boswell didn't file my paperwork after I did it as a CIT. So I had to do it again in 2019 because my Red Cross expired.
Damn, that's actually
Yep.
tough.
Yikes.
So that was
You're a
fun.
nerd.
Um, yeah, I didn't appreciate that. Dishes are fine. I never gamified dishes or anything. So like I wasn't like, oh, I'm great at dishes. But like you gotta do dishes. Somebody's gotta do it. Might as well be the CITs.
Mhm. Yeah. What would you say your favorite team day or co-ed day was at camp?
I mean, I I remember Nature's Wrath as a kid. And I remember being super bad at Nature's Wrath because I had no friends.
Oh,
Yep.
that's real.
Yep.
So I loved doing Nature's Wrath as a counselor, but I asked a kid about it when I was a counselor and said the same thing that I probably thought, that the counselors probably had more fun. So I love doing Nature's Wrath as a counselor. Cautionary tale: make it about the kids. Make sure that they've got friends. Make sure that it works. Um, and then my actual favorite theme day is nuclear fallout theme day.
What was that? I don't think
Uh,
I've heard of that one.
they did it once. It was it was so stupid, but they really like played it up. There were like the best part of a good theme day is not going to be the games really. The games are a little bit dumb, but they really played up this this okay, Belknap has nuked Northwoods.
No.
There are
I always knew it.
there was somebody drove a car down the trail section with a siren on. I know you love this theme day. Um and I know I'm forgetting it's the same guy who taught me how to or who was the sailhead, and I'm forgetting his name again. Um and like we were all like shepherded off to different nuclear shelters on camp. I was stationed at the climbing wall, and we got continental breakfast like delivered to us, which was fun. And we had all these plastic knives that people were supposed to use for the bagel, and we tied them to sticks and like poked a bunch of like our defend battlements into the ground. And then we like kind of went to play the game, and the game wasn't as fun as just like we're fortifying the climbing wall. But like just like allowing ourselves to get into the sort of imagination of that um was awesome. um I have a couple things to say about like weird camp activities. um so inspired by that day, and also inspired by the fact that I was super into D&D for a little while, I think my best cabin day ever was my last cabin day. And I did
I
a
think I
large,
remember you doing this.
yeah. So I went to the arts and crafts. I made all of my kids like fantasy weapons out of cardboard and like sticks. And I dressed up in my Jedi costume and got like one of these twisty vines from behind the junior LT. And I had I had Cam and Quinn on for that day, which was, first off, having more staff on for cabin day is the way to go. Unfortunately, that's not how it works every time, but like it's really tough to run a good cabin day as just one guy. Um, but I had Cam and Quinn on partially because it was COVID, so it didn't matter as much. Um, but I had them go to different locations on camp based on like it was essentially a scavenger hunt. But instead of doing scavenger hunt stuff, we did like games at all of the places. Like I had Quinn go to, there was a bridge that was broken at that point, and he dressed up as a troll and gave them 3 riddles. And then we were like, okay, now we can cross the bridge and go to like somewhere else. And Cam was there, and he was Father Christmas, and he had a laundry bag, and he gave them the all of these fantasy weapons like it was Narnia. And then we went to Peanut Butter Pit, and we did the Peanut Butter Pit thing, and there was like a big plot twist where actually I who had been like the good wizard this whole time was actually evil. And that was a lot of fun. And the thing I realized with that I think is generalizable is that scavenger hunts are a really good cabin day as long as you do them in a more interesting way than we normally do. So what we normally do is we normally like write some dumb riddle that's like, here's the next location. Solving a riddle for 3 hours is not fun, especially when you're just walking in between it. When you have like you have like 3 locations in an ideal scavenger hunt, really. Because otherwise, I mean, maybe 4 for like older kids, but what you want to do is you want to have the scavenger hunt. You go to the place and you like do an activity, and that's how you progress. For some reason, I like however you want to write this. This is my advice for cabin day. If you're doing
Yeah.
cabin day, listen. Uh, um, you do an activity there, I don't care what it is. If you're the archery head, go shoot archery, and like they have to like write a number or something. I don't know how easy archery is. But like do you have to do something interesting at whatever location you're at. And like it can be as imaginative or as basic as you want. Um, but do something interesting. And then yeah, don't make it too long, and dress it up, give it a theme. Um, I think if you just have your own cabin doing theme day, uh, it'll be more fun than like the actual theme day, because you can sort of adjust on the fly to what how these campers are reacting to it, like everything like that. Like I picked out all of these like weapons, fantasy weapons for my kids, um based on like what I thought they would like. I gave one of them like just a hockey stick from the Rorod Center, um, and I gave I gave another one like a fantasy axe, and they traded. Like, great, okay, you guys like that better, you know. Um, so like, if it were rigid like a theme day, it wouldn't have been able to happen like that. The other thing, this is sort of just like a tip. If you're having trouble coming up with a theme day activity or like a weird or like any activity like that, um, there's a TV show that every counselor should watch some of this TV show. It's called Taskmaster. There's
Oh yeah.
15 seasons on YouTube, and they just get these British comedians to do goofy shit. It's so funny. And there's definitely some gems that we could do at camp there.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's in the same vein as Cardboard Boats. Cardboard Boats is gaslighting, by the way. It's hilarious.
They'll never
Can't pass.
float.
Can't pass time.
What?
Can't pass
Yeah.
time. Gaslighting
So
campers.
like you just get like a bunch of like card. If anybody doesn't know what Cardboard Boats is, you get one roll of duct tape for every team, and then you get like a bunch of cardboard and you just give it to them, and you're like, okay, make a boat and we're gonna have a race. And like saying that it's going to be a race makes them think that they actually have a chance of making a floating boat. If they did have a chance of making a floating boat, you would have to give them like a week and probably 10 or 12 rolls of duct tape. Yep. But we don't do that. We just give them like a minimal amount of cardboard, minimal amount.
Right, you have 5 minutes and 3 pieces of tape. Make it float.
One of my favorite things to do. I did it like almost every cabin night.
Yeah,
but like
that is
I could have been a little bit more creative than that. Also, if you start getting repeat campers, they're gonna be like, I don't think we can do this. So it might not.
Even on repeat, I think those are better than any cabin night or cabin day that I've had to do, because like it is so hard thinking of a good cabin day that's like original, and then like camp will like let you do. You're like I've spent like a week doing it, I go, I can't think of this.
Yeah, there was one time, and I know you know this, Jordan, that I was like, I need to make sure that at least one time I get my cabin tubing.
Yeah, that was.
And I talked to the boat driver. I think it was
Ted.
Yeah, Ted Lane. I talked to him. I made sure he was coming that day. I made sure it was all good. I talked to Jago, or not Jago. It was a Puzo at that point.
Yeah.
And I made sure, like, hey, I want tubing. I'm gonna have tubing, and it was typed in on the cabin day sign up sheet when he printed it out that I was doing tubing. And then Jordan was like, hey, can I come? I'm having like drama going on right now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's when my co got fired. But then that kind of like that was a rough day because it was also like about to rain. But I'm like, we could get this in.
Yeah. Oh, it was awesome. It was a great cabin day. They played Nukem on the beach with sodas, which also is something that I set up and you didn't help with. Dude, I had enough sodas I had enough sodas. I had like these beautiful like glass soda bottles. I think it's called Bailey's soda. No, it's like it starts with a B. But like I got like a glass soda bottle for every one of my campers. And then you were like, oh, can I come? And I was like, shit, I have to get more soda. So I knew that Quinn had a stash of Orange Crush under his bed. And I was like, hey, Quinn, can I have some Orange Crush? I'll pay you back.
I remember giving someone soda back. I think I got him. Maybe I'm just like crazy and gaslit myself to think that, but
That
I
that
lifeguarded.
that could have happened, yeah. But like, yeah, that was also a good cabin day. But like scheduling that time and also like doing tubing is kind of like a one trick pony. And you get to go tubing once at each camper, or maybe twice if you have enough time. But like the rest of the time, you're just sitting on the beach. So you have to have something for that. I don't know if soda is the best thing, but it's a thing.
For me, it was weird because I think like half my kids were in water ski, and like
Oh,
I wasn't teaching it, but I was helping out. And I'm like, bro, I know half of you are already. They're like, we want to go tubing. I go, half of you are already going tubing, and they're like, we want to go tubing. I'm like, guys, like no, and they're like, yes. And then like I'm like, fine, I will see what I can do. And then like because they were asking for the whole week, and I just kept telling them no.
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know. When kids ask me for something, I try to like actually think about it. Like, okay, hey, there is a reason. I just give me a second. I need to remember what it is. And usually when I actually tell them what the reason is, they're good enough with that. But if there's no reason, I'm like, oh yeah, maybe I'll try to do that. Because if you guys want to do it, it'll be fun.
Yeah, that is probably the only good like cabin day I've had. Or like, there's been some where it rains, so where like you get lucked out, where you don't plan anything, you just go to the like you just go somewhere and like do something. Like I had a really fun day planned that like if we could get a projector, we could do like a fun. I don't know, it was movie day, but it was something, and like everyone was excited, and then like they're like, you can't get the projector. And I'm like, oh okay, shucks. Um, but we had like a couple cabins, and we were really relying on getting the projector, and then like last minute they're like, no. We're like, that kind of throws a wrench in all of our plans. And then it
Yeah,
rained, so we're like, phew, thank God.
yeah, yeah.
I got a big question about the Northwoods Brotherhood. Um, I don't really know what else to compare it to, but like I know like I don't know in your experience, but like for me, like last year with the internationals, like after like a couple days, we were already like close, and like some of these people are like the closest people I'm with. Can you just talk about that Northwoods Brotherhood and what makes it different than like, I guess, regular friends from home?
Sure. So I know a lot of people from like way back at camp. I met Liam Redding in Trail Three. I met James Mahoney in Trail Three. Um, like way back. And both of those guys are great guys. But the opposite ends of the political spectrum. It's very funny. But like I don't know. Every time I came back, it was a different group of people. Like sometimes there were the same people. Like it was a, but it really didn't get to the point of camaraderie like across years until my LIT and CIT years. Like my LIT year, those are those are a lot of my best friends at camp. Um, and what's interesting is that Aiden White, Joe Klosterman, and myself all did the same thing LIT to CIT. So like I was expecting to know nobody, and I didn't know very many people, but I I was like we did the same thing, and it was like great to get to know those guys better too. But like genuinely, one of my best friends on camp is Dan Edmonds, and I met him like it's my
2018.
sixth year on camp,
Yeah,
seventh year on camp, maybe I don't know.
7.
And like we just hit it off. We went to town one day in a van because none of us had a car with Hayden. Um, and like we taught drama together, which was interesting. Um, and it's always really easy to make a lifelong friend at Northwoods. There's not like, oh, this person has like a higher friend status because I've known them for longer. Like I love all those guys. But like it was being put in a context like, oh hey, I have to work with this guy randomly, made it really easy to hit it off. Like and find cool people. Like there's nowhere else that I've experienced where it's as welcoming of a community and people are as like outgoing. Uh and like myself included. I have not been as outgoing in any other community. Um and it's really easy to make lifelong friends at Northwoods, or at least life so far long friends. Because of the culture there and how like well we get to know each other. Um, yeah, there. I'm not a psychologist. I can't tell you why that culture exists, but it's incredible, and I haven't ever seen anything like it.
Yeah, because like at least for me, like when I went to college, it took like a couple of weeks at least to like make friends like that. But then like at camp, like one of the stories I like to tell is like Cam Parsons. Like he just randomly showed up second session. I was like, I'm working, and then like 2 days in, like he became my new best friend. And then like Joyce, I'm like, joy to Cam for being my new best friend, and he wrote the same one to me, and I'm like, oh
Oh,
my God, and like Cam Person is like one of my favorite people, and like but it's funny because like I only knew of him because like I'd hear these names from my brother. Like I'd hear like Frank Gittleman name thrown around, like Cam Parsons, Will Secor, but like I never like knew who they actually were. And then like I meet these people and like even like the new internationals, like last year, like after like a couple of days, I'm like, I've known this man my entire life. This is my new best friend.
yeah,
Um, especially like Ollie and like Michael Chion. Shout out Michael. Um,
yeah.
and I think now like especially this year because I don't know the number on Northwoods, but I think in total we have like 62 international staff.
Like
Wow.
So yeah,
52. That includes kitchen
52.
staff and
Yeah,
PVC, or kitchen staff,
Oh,
maintenance, and
okay.
just
PVC.
in
That's
total. So
still a
like it's a
lot.
lot. Yeah,
But
But
still, that's
like that's
about,
like enough to staff all of Northwoods if it was just Northwoods.
yeah, that's it's about 15 international cabin counselors, I
That's
believe.
awesome.
Maybe
that's a
maybe
lot.
more.
I
I
was
know
going through
PVC
this.
there are more internationals than than Northwoods. So
I don't know. Maybe,
Northwoods is crazy.
maybe part of what makes Northwoods as easy to get to know people and like make good connections with as it is these traditions where we like say we like each other and talk about our feelings and stuff. Dive is a great example of that, and so are joys. I still have all of my joys. This is a bottle of joy.
Having your, I've lost some of them, but like having your joys is just like like sometimes like on a rough day you'll just read it. And you're like,
Oh yeah,
it just makes me
I
feel
don't I
nice.
don't have my CIT joys, but I have all of my like counselor joys.
keep them
I
in my
think
wallet.
it's also got to do so like we're all in the woods and like all the internationals like are there the full summer, but then like most of us are there like a month and a half or like the full summer. So you're like we're gonna be seeing each other like living right next to each other this entire time. Like there's no point to have beef, but also the fact that like we're rarely on our phones. Like right now my screen time's like 6 hours. But like at camp is like less than an hour a
Similar.
day.
Yep.
Yeah.
It just
It,
drops like this week's probably gonna be 6 hours. Next week's gonna be like an hour.
yeah, all my
Yeah.
screen time at camp is in between periods hiding in the sailing shed. Um
I've never had more like screen time like taking pictures in my life because like sometimes I'll be like, wow, look at this sunset picture, or like this is a cool
Yeah,
moment
I
in
have
picture.
so many pictures of the sunset at Northwoods on my phone. Like they all look the same, but they're all gorgeous.
Yeah, you just
yeah.
can't delete. Like I'll be on my phone. I go, I have the same picture 20 times, but I can't delete this one. It's too
Yeah.
perfect.
This one's a banger.
I have a lot of like really I sometimes you get into those conversations where you're like, oh, I'm showing a person like a picture on my phone. 90% of the time that I'm showing somebody a picture on my phone, it's a camp picture. I'm either
Yeah,
like, hey, I literally just met you, but look at this picture of me screaming in greasy watermelon.
No, because like in so many conversations, like you just end up showing your camera roll to people. And then like in so many of those, it's camp. Like
Yeah,
I was talking to my high
being
school
goofy.
sailing coach and I wanted to show him how like tiny our sailing shed was. Um, but I didn't have a photo of it on my phone. So Memorial Day weekend, I go up, I take a photo, and then I come back down and I show it to him. He's like, "Oh wow, that's cool." But yeah, I also got one before and after we cleaned it out.
oh yeah, sorry about that.
Oh no, it's good. So this is what it was Memorial Day weekends when I first opened it.
Yeah, yeah.
Shout out the skis.
And then the next day,
Master of inspection right here.
yeah, yeah. Actually, I was the trail section inspection king
We're actually
last year.
doing an inspection on the waterfront. So it's between the waterfront shed, the grotto, which we'll probably lose every day, and the sailing shed.
We should do that because then it's like waterfront and assistant waterfront director for the waterfront shed, and then all the waterfront staff for the grotto, and then airfront staff for the
Man,
sailing
you're
shed.
crazy. Man,
So
the grotto. Okay, I clean the grotto regularly just because I like sweeping and the sand pisses me off. But like, no one's gonna clean that.
no, but we should do that. We should do inspection so I can win more.
I don't know, bro. Caleb and
I would
cleaning
I
the
would not
hard.
have gone for that. I wouldn't have liked it at all.
Now the sailing shed is always pristine on my watch, not a speck of sand.
Leo and
I
Pat
kept I
versus
kept the
Spoils.
Caleb.
sailing beach pretty good. I made sure there were no like pine cones or rocks when they were getting in the water. But sailing shed, that's my domain. I'm
The
not gonna
sailing
clean it.
beach I do like
But I have
because
no idea how.
that area of the waterfront, like the left side, it's so rocky. But like if you go over near the sailing part, it's like less rocky. So it's just nicer, easier on the
Yeah,
feet.
that little sailing beach is like its own independent watershed. Like it's always got like a stream like running through it.
Yeah,
Like the
there's
2021
like the
summer.
runoff from the road, like will make
Yeah.
a yeah.
The
So you
2021
gotta
summer
you gotta
with
do
all of the
some
rain.
upkeep there,
Yeah.
otherwise you'll lose the sand over time.
Mhm.
Well, you will lose the sand over time, but you gotta do some upkeep there. But like a lot of that is just, oh, let me pile up these rocks over here,
Yeah.
so that like what's under the sand is just sand. Um,
Well, we do need some rocks under the sand because that's what
so
stops erosion.
so yes, but Derek liked it better when he took the rocks out.
I
And
also
then we
it was
lost
it was fun to
half the
do,
sand
bro.
on that beach.
Hey, maintenance beach, bro. The
Yeah.
best beach
Yeah.
around.
Well, like really, they just need to add more sand periodically, unfortunately,
Yeah.
which is like probably bad for the environment.
It is also illegal. Like you know
People
how there are no
Artificial
more
beach.
yeah, you know how there are no more like man-made beaches and how beach property on the lake is ridiculously expensive.
Oh,
It's
sure.
because they
Okay.
made it illegal to make artificial beaches. So
You
it's
can't pour it
technically
in.
illegal for us to truck in more sand, but how are they going to regulate that?
Yeah. Well, you just end up like PVC.
Yep.
That's the reality of it, and that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like that.
All right. Next question. What do you think? What would you say is the dumbest thing you've done on camp?
Or
And we
silliest.
or silliest? We could do an Founders Porch off rock portion if you feel like you have a lot of these that you don't want to say on the YouTube portion. But
Let's see. First off, I don't trust you to edit that well, and I don't want this whole thing to go off.
We can do a little off rock segment, which only
Maybe
gets shared to the.
we if I come up with something that requires that, we can do it after the podcast.
Yep.
Okay, great. But okay. I've done a lot of dumb things on camp. I have definitely not done as dumb things as I've seen people do. Like the whole CIT prank war with Tina the Toucan, if either of you remember that.
Yes. That's when we got pranks banned, right?
Oh, pranks were banned this whole time.
Oh,
They
well,
were just like, oh, if pranks are banned, we're gonna do it.
yeah.
But Mauricio and Aiden Wyatt were like the proprietors of this.
Mauricio.
Not Mr.
Um,
Aiden Wyatt.
so they made us in LGT. We basically spent like a half an hour inflating a toucan. And who helped with that? All the boys helped with that. And then they took it over to PVC. So like some of us, I didn't care, but some of us were pissed off. So they like somebody used their canoe kayak period and convinced the canoe kayak head at the time. I think it was Patrick, um, a different Patrick, obviously.
Yeah. I think I remember him.
To okay, let's go steal the toucan back. And so like a bunch of kids in canoe kayak went over, took the toucan, put it in a canoe, and then left. And like then it was at the Northwoods mats for a little while. And then PVC did the same thing, and that was cool. That was fun. Like toucan war, amazing, wonderful. Campers were involved, and then like Mauricio and Aiden. I think Mauricio was the primary guy who did this. Was like, okay, we're just gonna go take it in the middle of the night and hang it up on the flagpole. I have a picture of this, or maybe they didn't put it on the flagpole. They put it in high places on Northwoods a bunch of times.
On top of the pavilion.
They put it on top of the pavilion. I don't remember which order it was. It was pavilion, then flagpole, or flagpole, then pavilion. I will be able to find it. I'm looking for these pictures.
So was it that Northwoods took it originally and then PVC took it back and then it went
Yeah,
back
there
and
was
forth?
like it became like a CIT prank thing, which was that's part of what was dumb. But yeah, so it was pavilion first.
Oh, that thing.
Yeah.
And then flagpole. and then both of those times PVC took it back, insisting that it belongs to them. And then they decided, let's put it on top of Founders, because that's the highest place we can think of, and it's kind of hard to get it down from there.
Yeah.
So they were like,
it's also more of a neutral site.
They were also like apparently they somehow got onto the roof of Founders. Probably not as hard as I think it is, but I don't know how to do it. And they were like throwing it up, and they were gonna put it on the chimney. The chimney's got like a metal flue or something. So this vinyl toucan snagged on like a sharp edge of that, and they popped it.
Shocker.
They popped it. They only popped the outer ring. It was inflated in two parts. The inner ring was still okay, but like it was very sad. And PVC was like, "This is ours. You broke Tina." So that was pretty dumb. I was not participating in that at all. What's the dumbest thing I've done at camp? I mean, I remember having to coach Colby through like, oh hey, you broke the rudder on the buck. Let's get it back.
Hold on. Was that during like a free choice afternoon or something?
Oh, probably.
Because I was on that boat.
I believe that.
Yep. And then like
Like,
you had to hold it and like steer it while holding it.
he did that at first, and then it was just like, okay, I know how to do rudderless sailing. I'm gonna talk him through it, and he figured it out really quickly. It was awesome. But I mean, the buck broke so many times, and I feel like just like the
It's broken
random
every
like
year.
going between, hey Mike, hey Nick, I
Hey
need to fix,
Ross.
I need
Yeah.
to fix X, Y, and Z. I felt pretty dumb doing a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
Oh man, I wish I had a better story, and I definitely do. It's just not coming to mind.
Yeah. Do you remember on the last day of 2019, like fourth session, Andrew and I took out the buck and we tore the sail like completely. It was a super
I do
windy
remember
day.
that because I thought I
You
had fixed the sail.
Yeah, you put everybody in founders. And then I was like, hey, Alex, pretty please, can I take out the buck with it? Can I take out the buck? And Andrew was like, I'll go with him. And then you let us. And then it was on the J turn going back into the mooring. And right as we were turning, just
Yeah, it was the jib, right? Or was it
no, it was
both?
the main. It
Okay,
was the
yeah,
main.
yeah, yeah. I hope we don't still have the buck. Honestly,
We
it
do.
is. We do.
Yep. We fixed the rudder
That's the
plate
blue
that
one.
broke during we fixed the rudder plate that broke or the transom that broke during 2021.
Right, that was it.
Um I was talking to Ross about a new buck sale this Memorial Day and he was like, yeah, it's gonna be like at least $800. And I'm like,
I I
okay.
genuinely like. I know that they won't be able to get any money for it, but it would it would be significantly better if they just said no, you can't have it. Granted, they should replace it with an Aquafin or a Merc, which is expensive, and
Mhm.
that might be the hang up there. But like, it is such a burden on Mike, Nick, and the sailing heads that I don't think it's worth it.
I was
Um,
thinking about bringing my laser, but you can't really moor a laser.
you
You
could
can,
figure out how to do it,
you just have
but
to
like,
take the sail off the boom and then wrap it around the mast.
this
But
gets to the point that um, sailing shouldn't be a, the same activity period that they're doing everything else in. You don't have enough time to do it. If you had a double period of sailing, the right way to do that would be you just bring your dolly and you take it in and out of the water every time,
yeah,
and that's fine. You could, if you're okay with it, it'll wear down the boat kind of quickly, which is part of why the aquafins are so
just
crap.
beaching it.
You beach it between periods,
Yeah.
and that would totally work. And then you could sail a laser. That would be awesome. Um, if I ever have like a massive windfall, I might donate one or two like boats that I like to camp.
Yeah.
Probably not going to happen, but it could. It could.
Peer pressure, do it.
I'm saying, I just said if I end up randomly getting a lot of money, basically, is that the circumstances under which that would happen. And I would spend that money on other things first. But either way, yeah, the camp needs better boats, and there's a lot of deliberation as to like what boats camp buys, and we did a lot of that deliberation, and then we bought Aquafins again, and I think everybody was like, this is not the ideal situation.
Yeah.
Solution. Um, I under I think it's a good idea to not have like, this is a super complicated boat. Almost said robot,
Yeah.
but like, there during my junior year there was like a 420 on camp for a couple days on the beach, and we were like, I knew what a boom bang was, but I was looking at the boom bang and I was like, what the heck is this? Because
Yeah.
it
There's
goes
some that
back
are
to the cockpit. It's
yeah.
rigged. It's rigged so that the skipper can adjust the boom bang.
Yeah. That's what my Vang is on my laser.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
there's only one person
True.
laser, so it kind of has to
Yeah.
be.
But like I've got all the controls like running down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like having too many control lines, having it be like too streamlined, there's not a lot of space. You have to know exactly how to sit. That's not necessarily what we need for camp. What we need for camp is like a durable boat that's simple. And that's
Yeah.
what an aquafin advertises itself to be, but it's also not good for beginners, which is why we want a durable boat in the first place. So long story short, make sailing take longer. Uh,
Yeah,
give us
there
more
were
time.
two
Give
for
us
two
better boats.
sessions last
Give us
year.
a launch. Uh,
Yeah,
there's a lot of ways to make it way better.
for two sessions last year, they took away double sailing. And then for one of the sessions, they made it periods 4 and 5, which is when the LITs have their training during period 4. So there were no LITs in the advanced sailing class. And I'm like, that's who the period is made for. Like,
yeah, I don't know. I don't like activities saying like I don't like activities excluding any age group.
yeah.
I really didn't appreciate, and I know Noah had good reasons for this, but like I didn't appreciate that he was like, no, I don't want to teach juniors.
Yeah,
And
I don't mind teaching juniors, but having them in the same period as like trailers and seniors, like if I were to have
yeah,
juniors, I would like them all kind of in one period where
that's actually an idea. You can probably request that from Rob and say, hey, let's do second and third period juniors because there's no win first
yeah, no
period, but
wins.
it's also not like third and fourth period when it's ripping, if it's gonna be.
Yeah,
So
fourth period. I love that.
fourth period, yeah, oh yeah. No, the most frustrating thing is that it's always the best while you're just waiting.
Yeah.
Passing
So
periods are the
also
best
during
sailing.
co-ed day, it like or the
Oh yeah.
It's always
Sunday
great on
always has the
Sunday.
best wind. Like it's always like, man, chapel, like I'm sitting there and I'm looking out past the speaker to the water. It's just
Gosh,
white
every
caps.
time. It's every time. But yeah, Water Carnival is great for that.
Oh,
You
true,
you
yeah.
can like say, hey, I want to run a station at Water Carnival that's just cruises. And you
Yep.
just like take 5 people out in a Merc.
Yep.
And yeah. That didn't really work in 2019, but it worked great. Or no, in 2021, but it worked great in 2019.
Yeah. I remember
Um,
that. I signed up for that.
super fun.
Yeah.
Have sailing be a cruises be a thing at Water Carnival every time. And
Mhm.
yeah, it's great.
Yeah. All right. Jordan, should we do dive?
I got one last question.
Oh
All
It's
right.
geez.
a podcast classic, as the kids would say, as I would say. Um, it's a very simple question. At camp, we have many traditions, some newer traditions. What would you say that we words? What would you say is one of your favorite camp traditions? Maybe like one as a camper specifically, and then one as a staff member.
Sure. Okay. Um, Overnights are my favorite tradition at camp. Period. Um, both as a staff member and as a camper. And I know that's a controversial opinion. I also never went to Sandy Island, but like I didn't bond with my senior cabins the same that I did with even my junior and trailer cabin. Like I remember I I looked up so much to Dana Connolly because he did one thing for me one time, which was that I forgot to bring my book to Pine Island. And he was like, here, I'll loan you my Full Metal Alchemist. And I read the entire, I think it was like second book of Full Metal Alchemist on that Pine trip. And it was great. Like
You
I
have a
was,
lot of free time on Pine.
yeah, yeah. You need to bring a book to Pine. Um, but like and having cookouts, the best overnight is also the worst overnight. It's called Joe's Island. If you don't get to go to Joe's Island, I'm really sorry. Um, but like there's not anything quite like, oh, I've been with these guys for like 4 days and I kind of know them. But now my counselor is we've made a seesaw and he's yelling, beam me up, Scotty, and breaking this piece of plywood. You've heard this story, haven't you, Jordan?
maybe, but it's just the way you said it, you go the best and worst overnight. That's exactly how I describe it. And if you haven't been, that makes no sense. But like if you've been to Joe's, you just like understand why it's terrible and amazing at the same time.
It's pivotal.
It's so funny.
It's so important. It's every other overnight combined except maybe Chase's. Uh, and it's the best of those because you have the biggest cabin and you are one cabin. It's not like, oh, we have a big group. And like awesome if you have a big group on Pine, you kind of need to. But like there's a little bit of like, oh, one person's one cabin, you know. But yeah. I think I would not be as good friends with that LIT group if it weren't for Joe's Island.
Yeah, Joe's Island's a fever dream. But I just remember like
Sean literally had fever dreams coming off of Joe's Island.
yeah,
Like
but
he's still my phone contact is still Sock for Sean McWilliams.
it's just that like it was so hard to sleep there and like we were just exhausted. And but like when we woke up like at 6 a.m. We were just making me and the boys jokes and they weren't even that funny. But like we were just so out of it. They were the most hilarious thing.
I remember the me and the boys jokes.
It got to a point where it was just bad, where they didn't even make sense, but we were just dying. And when we got back, we're like on the days like you guys don't have to go to your next period. We're just like thank you. Like it's definitely interesting experience, and I'm glad you brought that up.
I mean, like obviously being a staff member and doing joys is massively important. Um, being a kid and doing dive and being a staff member and doing dive is massively important. Um, and those are all great traditions. I love my staff bracelet, new tradition. Um, it's been two
I had to
years.
cut mine off.
Oh
I had to cut
no!
mine off.
For what? You sail.
My school did a prison visit like for our criminal justice class, and it was a mandatory visit. And I was like, do I have to take these off? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, are you sure? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, can I wrap my wrist like in duct tape? Can I like put duct tape over my wrist to like, and they're like, no, you have to cut them off. And I'm like, so I still have them, but they're like too short to burn back on.
Well, the
Um,
ones last year were just not good.
yeah,
Yeah. I keep this with me basically at all times. My backpack.
yeah.
I made sure to get spare of the last one that I've got.
This is a
You're at
good one.
Northeastern, right?
What?
Are you at Northeastern still?
Yeah.
Word.
That's 2021 though, so it's not actually up to date with you.
Yeah, yeah, that's fine. Like
That's
there's
like for
probably
the rest of my life.
yeah.
The 2021 is a good one. Like
Oh
last year
yeah,
kept
it's
shrinking.
gorgeous. And
This one's perfect. It's like I love it.
That's the
I
purple, right?
Yeah.
yeah yeah. So like most of them have like kind of got like there was that one year where it was like electric green, and it ended up being like forest green by the time I took it off. And it was like, oh, this is kind of like gross. It's weird that it's changed colors. I don't like that. This one has faded really, really nicely. It still
Yeah.
looks great. Um,
It used to be a little bit more vibrant, but like it's the same color. And I do
yeah,
like it.
I really like this one.
I like how it just like, it's still on my wrist and I don't have to cut it off from it being too tight because the
Oh,
last
so there
one,
you go. There's four
yeah.
traditions for my favorite tradition answer.
All right. Speaking of dive, it's time for dive.
All right, lights out,
Lights off.
everybody.
I haven't done Zoom in a while.
Bottom
The
left.
video, yeah. Oh,
All right.
let's go. All right. So tonight's dive question. Uh, Recently, me and Caleb decided to make a Northwich Justice League. So that's the theme for tonight's dive. If you were member of the Camp Justice League, what superhero would you be? And it doesn't necessarily have to be a DC superhero. Um, it's just like what would you bring to the Northwoods superhero community, or which superhero you would be, I guess.
Patrick.
Go ahead, Patty.
All right. So I believe this was a question a little while ago. That's perfectly okay. I'm gonna give my same answer and pick it might be the one you're thinking of. I hope not. Um, and that is Aquaman. You know, just love the water, uh, and all of that. But also sometimes when you're fixing boats on their moorings, you accidentally drop a full box of rings and pins and everything while it is open to the bottom of the lake, and then you have to swim down for the next 30 minutes retrieving each piece of hardware. Um, and just being able to stay down there and being able to breathe underwater would be great. So it would help with my job, but also it would be sick. Like I could just live underwater. Like during off nights, I could just swim under the dock and talk to all the counselors that aren't at camp anymore that are cryogenically frozen and chained under the docks. Um, which is what we tell the kids, by the way. Uh, or what I tell the kids. Um, so yeah, that would be pretty sick.
Thank you for sharing, Aquaman. You are now legally obligated to bring an Aquaman suit to camp.
No problem, Green Arrow or Batman.
Yes, that's
Alex.
it. Go ahead,
Go ahead.
Alex.
So realistically, the superhero, if I were to end up being a superhero, I would end up being very much like Mr. Terrific. He's got like a bunch of these like little drones that he has fly around and like hit stuff for him. Um, and like recently, I've really gotten into like building combat robots. So like having like a robot that does my fighting for me is probably what I would be able to bring to the table. I don't know. Maybe you could say that's Iron Man, but I'm gonna go with something similar to Mister Terrific.
Yeah, I see what you mean. That
And
actually
you could
really good
also
one.
turn that into a pun and turn it into Mister Terrific.
I don't get it.
Is that whatever? You'll figure it out eventually. um,
Um, I'll go.
Go ahead, Jordan.
All right. I'll say three. Gotta touch on two of them. So obviously the first two, well, the first one would be a Green Arrow because, you know, I'm actually like really good at archery, some would say. Uh, and someone needs to save my city, and it's got to be me. And for the same reason, I'm also Batman. Uh, because I'm literally him. Um, but the third one would be the Flash because I'm really fast in my mind. And I actually think it'd be cool because you can just like run at super speed, but then like some adaptations in the comics you can like do different things with your lightning and like actually like hold it. So like you could throw it, I guess like use it as a sword, run on it, uh, whatever your mind imagines. But if I had to pick one, it'd be the arrow, just because like that actually does make sense. Like I'm good at archery, and like green is my color, and that's what I would bring to the Northwoods Justice League.
Good answer. But Jordan,
Yeah.
I am gonna have to debate you on your Flash answer because during session 2 of 2021, when we were playing Counselor Hunt, my camper, Joey Ryan, beat you in a sprint down the senior road. So and he might be an AC this year. So I'm gonna have
So
to debate you on that one.
he's my reverse flat. Not joking. The story behind that is Spencer told me I could only run up and down the senior road, and by that point, I just that's all I did. I was just sprinting up and down that road to the point where like I kept getting caught because one, I had nowhere to go, and two, I was exhausted. Um, if I was a Flash, that's on me. I could have still outran him. So I guess I'm just Batman.
Yeah. No, but respect. You were quite quick. I was very impressed.
All right. So let's dive. Um, oh my God, that's so awkward. Oh my God, no, that's not me. Whoa, cut that out, cut that out. Um, I just want to give a quick shout out to Caleb. Caleb's been talking some smack, so I'm gonna expose him. Caleb is the Batman. So, everyone watching, now you know.
And the Frankie's dream joke doesn't really work anymore because dream is kind of not great.
Yeah. On behalf of me and Pat, we'd like to thank you for hopping on the podcast finally. Um,
Sorry
oh,
for the delays. That was all me.
oh,
Busy
there was
month and a half.
I mean, I
there
didn't
was
have a very open schedule, to be honest.
Yeah.
I've been like super busy.
Graduating high school is kind of time consuming.
yeah.
Yeah.
Shout
Oh,
out
also,
Pat.
like Pat, you realize that I hate you now because everybody's like, "You're at Northwestern, right?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
"No, I live in Boston. You are meeting me in Boston. What?"
No, because everybody says, "Oh, you're going to Northeastern, right?" And I'm like, "Northwestern," and they're like, "Aren't those like brother and sister schools?" And I'm like,
No,
"Zero relation."
nothing to do with each other except the name. I
Yeah.
hate it. I hate it.
I know, but isn't it funny that the last two like sailing heads, I mean excluding Jack McGarrigan, because like what did I when he was sailing head, I was really sailing head. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. He's amazing.
I'm
But
glad that like I feel like he was sort of like a transitional sailing head while you
yeah,
were
and he
being
was
trained.
excellent. He was excellent.
I don't doubt it because like he actually had taught sailing in the
Yeah.
past, which like for various reasons we couldn't get you to do.
Mhm.
Like couldn't fit you in for one reason or another. So it was really I was really glad to hear that you were both chosen to be sailing head because I advocated for you to be the sailing head
Aw.
uh, to Jago, and I think it was good that you were able to get into that position. But I was
Thank you.
also a little worried because I wasn't sure if Jack was coming back or if he was going to teach windsurf or campcraft or what.
Yeah.
So
He was both assistant waterfront director and sailing head.
that makes sense. Yeah.
It's
And
funny
so
because Jack could be like the head of like 5 different activities on game, at
Yeah.
least.
Yeah. Dude, I would have made such a good arts and crafts head. You have no idea.
oh yeah. Yeah, no, your paintings, like your magic card, like little paintings are so cool.
Dream job.
So yeah.
Oh,
I
I
was
was gifted this birthday. I have to like mix this in with my camp visit. I would like this May I was gifted an on plein air easel, which is like a portable easel that you can like set up and like
that's so cool.
paint wherever. I'm planning to visit camp. I was thinking, oh, I'll just like do a hike in the White Mountains and paint like a scene there. I'll probably have to bring 2 canvases and like find a good spot on camp.
You can paint
Yeah.
me.
I'm not going to do that. I don't
Why?
like
I just wanna spread some awareness to those that are watching this podcast is that Alex is my sailing sugar daddy. At the start of last summer, he sent a bunch of sail magnets like with little boats and like pins and everything, which made teaching a lot of techniques so much easier. And then at the end of the summer, he also sent these like handcrafted cleats to like teach kids how, right?
there were like little rigs
Yeah,
that were
yeah.
handcrafted. The cleats
It was
themselves
like,
were not handcrafted. I bought those
well,
at
yeah,
West Marine.
it was like a board, or it is a board, and then a cleat screwed onto it, and then a bit of rope, and it's like kind of simple, but like the best thing ever at the same time. So
Like a little portable cleat
yeah,
practice situation.
much love for the gifts.
I'm glad they were useful.
Yeah.
I'm leaving that in there because you said it, and you said sugar daddy. Funny. You have to live with that now. Shout out Pat for graduating high school. He's
Thank you.
now a college guy.
Yeah, the last of our year to graduate high school.
You want
I'm behind Andrew.
Are you at college now, Jordan?
just a freshman
I feel
year?
like I've heard it's like I don't I'm not confident in where you're going, but I want to say it was like George Washington,
Syracuse.
Syracuse. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Shout out Zane. Just
Shout
want to
out
give him a
Zane.
shout out. R.I.P. Zane.
He's coming back eventually. I've got my droopy shirt on, which is the inspiration for Zane.
Just a little podcast news. Maybe we get a vlog going during staff week on the way up.
Yes, we will.
I guess if it's staff week next week, then I'm probably or not like tomorrow, but like a week from today.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then I'm one of the last guests before the summer.
Yeah. We'll try to do some fun stuff during staff week. Get some nice clips in. This one will be uploaded soon because there's nothing to really edit out.
Mhm.
Maybe
yeah.
I was so mad last summer. I kept emailing Jago like, hey, like I'm gonna be able to come up this weekend and this weekend, and I can even like help out. I could run bingo night if you want. And he was like, COVID stuff, COVID, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then like at the beginning of fourth session, I was like, oh, I have COVID now.
Yeah, Alex, I'll let you run my bingo night anytime.
Dude.
I don't know what that means.
Dude. All right. On that note, thanks for watching. And
I'll text you.
That's the end of the podcast.